Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be chatting through all of the books that I read in the month of September. So I would say September was a really good reading month. I think I've been struggling a little bit through the summer with my reading, but I feel as though my mojo was doing pretty well for September. Like, I think the middle of the month I was doing really well. Like the beginning I was a little bit slow, and the ending I was a little bit slow. But in the middle I did really well. So in total I read 8.5 books, and that half is a big half, so I feel as though it counts. So 8 and a big half amount of books, which comes to 3,243 pages for the books that I completed, plus quite a bit for the book that I am midway through. So probably closer to 3,700. 3.5 of the books were fantasy, 1 was non-fiction, and 4 were romance or sort of fantasy romance. 1 was a contemporary romance, but on their more romance side. All of them were adult. Then 1 was 5-star, 2 were 4 stars, 1 was 3.5 star, 2 3 stars, 1 2-star, and 1 that I'm leaving as unrated. So a very wide variety of star ratings. I think I pretty much went through all the star ratings there. All of them, apart from the 1 star, but like anything possible. I continued in 2 series, and honestly, I haven't checked my on-the-go number for series. I haven't been updating my spreadsheet. Somewhere around 30 odd. I do need to like check it, see if there's any that I want to DNF, like go through the list, see what I can do with it, but there's too many of them, too many. So going into the books, I do actually have a couple of other videos where I've talked about quite a few of these books already, so I feel as though I can point you to those if you want to hear more of my full thoughts on them, and I'll just briefly mention them here. So I do have a new releases style wrap up where I talk about I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which is an autobiography that she's written detailing her life as a child actress and the struggles that she went through growing up with her mother and with her eating disorder and the consequences of being in the limelight and the pressure that was put upon her at a young age. This is the one that I'm leaving unrated because I feel as though it's very hard to rate someone's life, but I do think it was very well written. I would strongly recommend reading it. And then the other book from that new releases wrap up is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I loved this one. This is my 5-star. I really thoroughly enjoyed this one. I do think I have a couple of flaws with it, but I've decided I'm rounding up. It's going to be 5. I was nervous going into it, but it surprised me in such a positive way. So if you want my full thoughts on this, I will link that video where I detail my love of Babel and why I enjoyed it so much and why it really worked for me as a reader, but also why I don't think it's going to work for everybody. A few other books where I also have a video talking about them are these 3, which are A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, Neon Gods by Katie Robert, and Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. These are all Hades and Persephone retellings, and I did do a vlog reading all 3 of these and sharing my thoughts on them and who I personally think did the Hades and Persephone trope best, so I can link that. These are all quite similar in some ways. I guess you have Lore Olympus, which is a graphic novel, which I think has very stunning artwork. There we go. So sort of a bluey, pinky tone to it all. I feel as though this is just the beginning of this, but I'm intrigued to keep going with this. And then there are quite a few similarities, I'd say, between Neon Gods and A Touch of Darkness. Both are set in a modern setting and taking that Hades and Persephone trope and giving it more of a very sexy vibe. So definitely leaning on the romance for both of these. Yeah, I would say definitely. This is why I've classed these as romance and not as fantasy, because although there are fantasy elements, I feel as though this definitely leans on the romance. So if you're after hearing any of my thoughts on any of those books mentioned, the videos will be linked so you can check those out. Now, moving on, I guess, to the small stack of books, which I have not talked about in videos before, so they can just have their quick mention now. And I feel as this is going to be a very quick wrap up if I keep going at this pace. So I have Shipped by Angie Hockman. This is a contemporary romance following Henley Evans, who works in marketing for a cruise travel agency. the rivalry that she has with one of her co-workers, and that they are both after the same promotion where they get sent on this cruise to experience the product, and then they're meant to come up with their new marketing strategy for this destination. I didn't really like this. Maybe my expectations were too high because I think it's compared to the Unhoneymooners meets the Hating Game, and maybe it is a little bit, but it didn't work for me. And I don't know if part of that is because I do work in the travel industry, and the amount of times I was like, but this is not how it works. And I was like, but this is not how it works. No, this is not how it works. I was getting really frustrated with the book because I was like, but no, it would never happen like that. But no. And I get that obviously there are differences in product, that I don't work on a cruise product, and I also don't work for an American travel agency. I work for a British, I work for a European one, because actually it's a German company I work for. I work for the UK part of a bigger German company. I get that there are going to be differences in sort of work culture between different countries, but no, she's going on a work trip to experience a product and then write a proposal on it, and she has just suggested that her sister's going to come too. You can never suggest that someone's going to be able to come too. Like, that's not what happens. If you go on a work trip, you can't suddenly bring a family member with you. I mean, the amount of times my boyfriend's like, oh, I want to come too, and I'm like, well, tough. It's not the way it works. Especially on the company's finances. No. It was so unrealistic that the sister was just going to be, oh, I'm coming too. There were so many things that were not realistic to my experience working in this industry. And I get that it's a book. I get that it's fiction. I get it. But I was finding it very hard to separate it. I was just like, did you do any research of someone that works in the travel industry? Like, did you talk to anybody that works in this industry? Because it doesn't look like that you did. Like, I read the bit at the end where she talks about like why she wants to focus on the Galapagos and the environment there and the animals there, and I'm like, okay, you did your research there, but you didn't actually research that had anything to do with this industry, because none of it made any sense. You frustrated me, and I feel like the romance was a bit rushed, and like, I don't feel as though the romance made up for all my frustrations with the rest of the plot and the rest of the book. That if the romance had been really, really strong, maybe I would have been able to like forget about those bits that were annoying me, but I don't feel as though the romance was really that strong. There was literally like a kiss, and that was it, and that was just disappointing. I finally finished Shadows of Self, so I restarted this after reading Alloy of Law last month, and I finally finished it. So I had been like midway through this book for a very, very long time. I think it was even more than midway through. It was somewhere like here. And finally, I finished it. I read the whole of the Shadows of Self. It has been sat half finished on my shelf for years, and here we go, success. So, I mean, I feel very accomplished in some ways this year, because like I managed to actually finish Shadows of Self. I actually managed to finish The Two Towers as well. Like, I've been working my way through books that I've had half read for years. Accomplished. And this is the second book in Mistborn Era 2, the fifth book overall in the Mistborn saga. And I actually really like this on reread. I think I'm enjoying this series more on my reread. I'm enjoying Wax and Wayne, I'm enjoying the twist. I don't really know why I stopped last time, but where I stopped, it got really good after that. It got really, really good though. Like, the ending of this book, I was like, ooh. I don't even know what that reaction was, but yeah, I'm definitely intrigued now to see where Bands of Morning goes, which I'm planning to read now in October, and then I'll be ready for the fourth book. Success here, success. And then the other series continuation that I read was Gleam by Raven Kennedy, the third book in the Play to Prisoner series. So I had read Glow and Glint, and I felt sort of so about them. Like, I wasn't in love with the series. It is a King Midas retelling where we're following our main character Oren and she is his sort of pet or prisoner, that she is kept in this gilded cage in his castle, and you follow her as she comes to realise sort of the situation that she is in and grow from it and sort of claim her own identity and her own place in this world. And it is set in this fantasy world with multiple kingdoms. The world has definitely expanded a lot from book one. Like, book one is very much like a prequel sort of setup to the series, and then things really grow from there. And I really liked this third book. This book was on a different level to books one and books two. I would say. I think book one was like a lot of setup, but book two, there was quite a bit of journeying with a climactic ending. Book three, I feel like this is where the series came into its own. I was like, okay, yeah, we're getting a lot of character development. We're getting like this different setting. We're getting all these characters sort of coming together. The romance actually starts in this one. Like, we actually get some romance. I was like, oh yes, here we go. The ending, again, was pretty climactic like with the second one. So I'm definitely intrigued to see where the fourth book goes. But my enjoyment for this series definitely increased with this one. Like, definitely increased. Like, I think I've given the first two maybe 3 stars, whereas this is easily a 4. Like, a very solid 4 stars, maybe like 4.25. Definitely not a 5, but like a very good read. A good fun read. Yeah, I've enjoyed like seeing the world grow and the magic grow in this series and seeing how it's all developed. So if you had like stopped after the first or the second book, then I'd recommend you keep going, because I really liked this third installment, and I'm looking forward to book 4. I believe it should be coming out in paperback now in October, but then I sort of want to delay reading it a little bit so that I don't have too long between the 4th and 5th book, because originally I thought this was a 4-book series, but I lied to myself, or someone lied to me, but there was some lying or misunderstanding, and now the 5th book comes out next summer. But obviously when it comes out, it's going to be in hardback, and I'm not buying it in hardback because I have everything else in paperback, so I need to figure out the perfect time to read that 4th book. I'll figure it out. And now my half book, my very big half. And it's probably not what you think it is, because this book wasn't on my TBR. I didn't read the one that was on my TBR. It's Speaking Bones by Ken Liu, the 4th book in the Dandelion Dynasty. And I am pretty much halfway, or coming up to halfway. Oh, this book smells so good. And I'm really thoroughly enjoying this. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I do still have half of the book to go, but I figure like this has been a big part of my September, well, the whole of the final week of September, because I started this last weekend, so I've been reading it for a week. I pretty much read like a massive chunk of it last weekend, like 350 pages, and then it's taken me like all week to read the next 120 pages. 130 pages, just because I haven't been doing very well at reading after work this week. So I'm really hoping that I can make another bit of good headway on this weekend. I'm doing really well with this, really well. I'm like loving being back in this world with these characters. I'm getting a bit nervous to see how it's going to end, because where's it all going to go? Where's it all going to go? And I don't really know how I'm going to feel once I finish this, because I feel as though this series has like taken over my 2022. Like, this has been the year for Ken Liu, and like, what do I do when I finish this series? Because I just feel as though we've had the year together, and like, what's gonna happen next? But anyway, it's not quite finished as yet. I will talk about it more in October. I think I am going to do like a whole series wrap up, or like, should you read the Dandelion Dynasty, and my thoughts and feelings on it. But I cannot do that right now because I still have half a book to go. But considering how much I have actually read of this, I figured it was worth mentioning. So if you can't guess, I did fail at my bookopoly. I read 5 of the 7 books. So if I hadn't got the doubles, then I would have completed it, because I did read 5 of the books that were on my bookopoly TBR. But I didn't, in the end, read more than 7 books. I read 8 books in the month, just not quite the books on the TBR. So the ones I didn't get to were Oathbringer, again, and The Ninth Reign. Those are the 2 books that will be carrying over to a future TBR, a future month, a future time. They definitely will still be read, but I did, in the end, fail bookopoly. Those are the 8.5 books that I have read in the month of September. Let me know how your reading in September was and what your favourite book of September was. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!